back with a bang for Commentator's Corner for episode 40. And once again, we go stateside. However, I've got a fellow commentator who's also been an assistant race director, driver as well, making a brief comeback with a certain team in 2020. Xander Clements from Kart Chaser, welcome to the show, buddy. Good to have you on board. How are you? And Happy New Year, first of all.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, Alex. Super happy to be here. Thanks for the invite to come onto this podcast. You know, for doing everything that we do, it's usually me being the host, and it's very rare that I get to go and be the guest. And I'm looking forward to this, man. This is going to be fun. So yeah, I'm doing great. I just moved into a different apartment, so things are a little bit crazy. We roll out to start our season in about 48 hours. It's a hectic time. It's been honestly kind of scary month of December for me, but overall, I feel like it all ended out pretty good, and you know we're set up for some really cool stuff for you know, I guess is your kind of 3.5 for us here in 2024.
A bit like me being self-employed for now 3.5 years, because for those wondering, Kart Chase will be broadcasting live. SKUSA Winter Series rounds 1 and 2 at the AMR Motorplex in Homestead, just outside of Miami in Florida, on January 12th to the 14th, February 9th to the 11th. But then you'll also be going to the Orlando Kart Center for all 4 rounds of the Rotax Max Challenge Winter Trophy, which is one of 2 competitions that'll be running in the first quarter of 2024 to give tickets away for this year's grand finals at Sarno. The other one being the Asia Festival, taking place, actually, it's on the first week of the Winter Trophy in Orlando, so the Asia Festival, which will be taking place in Sepang. So, as you said, it's not easy when you've got so much going on board. Of course, Kart Chaser was founded by yourself and Trevor Blue, and you guys have really push the brand forward with a lot of the team that you have. Of course, a lot of the as we like to say in the UK, commentators, but as you guys say in the US, it's the announcing team, you know, whoever's on color, whoever's on play-by-play. Let's wind back a few months to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Supernats 26, record viewing figures on the Kart Chaser YouTube channel, which literally blew up when Danny Formal became one of a handful of people that has won 4 Supernats titles. We saw one of the biggest comebacks, I think, from a guy that we've both commentated on before, Davide Fore, who won it in Master Shifter, coming from way back when to win it with just a handful of laps remaining. Supernats really has come up another level with you guys providing the coverage. It wasn't that easy, though, was it? Because there's always trials and tribulations whenever you're running an organization that is not just providing broadcasting, but you're having to get the team, and of course yourself also calling out all the drivers before the main final, so you get that real sort of blue Ry-Ban event feel, like the pomp and circumstance. You had e-karting News' Rob Howden, the voice of the grand finals, Henry Baudet. We had Mike Smith. We had all the people in pit lane. What was the real feeling being there when the adrenaline is kicking through, not just as a commentator, but as someone who knows and lives and breathes this business day in, day out?
So this year was a little different. We got to do it for the very first time back at the end of 2022, and that was our first full season. And you know, that year, and even really a lot of 2023, event by event, we were just kind of figuring things out of what to scale, how many people, how many cameras, you know, what would be an extra thing that could level up. And so, you know, I know that we want to talk about Supernats 26, but really even that event goes back all the way to the summer of 2022. And so we're doing events through the year. We ended up doing about 27 races, ending with Supernats 25 that year, taking over from the company they had previously, which was the only American streamed race really in the last 5 or 10 years besides us, was a group that was a satellite arm from CBS Sports in 2021. I think they did it in 2019 as well. But they only did Sunday. And there was just a much bigger production company, so it was a much higher budget the SKUs had to put out kind of on a flat rate. we were obviously a whole lot lower, being a new business, trying to get in and not exactly knowing everything that we were doing through the year 2022. And we get to August, which is the SCUSA Summer Nationals, I guess end of July into August, which is the end of their 3-race regular national championship for the SCUSA Pro Tour. We're sitting down, we're kind of talking, okay, how can we do the Supernats? And Tom Kutcher, the series owner, he goes to me, he's like, can you just give me, blank check, what would your biggest production scale be? And let's do this as a collaborative effort. Whereas all the other events on the year, and especially with a lot of the other race series, it's, hey, I don't know what the value is on, a stream in general. It's not something we've normally spent a whole lot of money on. We haven't even spent maybe a lot of money on video marketing or digital marketing. So, that's why a lot of our model kind of turned out to be the way it was. So we sat down pen to paper and we said, okay, this would be cool. This would be cool. We could double up on this, double up on that, more cameras, etc. All right, here we go. And signed off and did it in 22. And that was a big first year because then we were able to measure our Super Sunday metrics then, which was about 42,000 or maybe 39,000 against the metric of 2021 when the previous streamer did it. And they only had 21,000 views. So in the first attempt, we about doubled what the previous guy had done. And that was, I think, a big testament to all the brand work we had done. And then we go back around to this year and it's like, all right, how can we go even bigger, right? The year before, we did driver walkouts for the top 10. Well, this year, the top 10 got a full 30-second hype video, and we introed the whole field for the 2 headline classes. And we got to work with the event promoter where we put the go-karts onto the racetrack to be a little more, have some more pageantry to it. SCUSA, on their own accord, worked out a really cool deal to get a much bigger Jumbotron. And then we added more people. We had a team of 3 people strictly on social media content on site on the weekend, another one off site, which is pretty normal for us. In total, we had about 22 to 23 on staff, if I remember correctly. All the on-track angles, 2 full sets of pit reporters, a specific guy on instant replays, which we hadn't done, and we'd only been starting to be able to get to do it. And I have to have a huge, huge, huge thank you and kudos to Luke and Will at Alpha Live, because they were the ones that helped us design the brand new graphic system that we ran for starting lineups, results, and tickers. And, the thing about doing any kind of live production event, whether it's for TV or it's a stage show, nobody knows exactly what's a mistake or what's an error if you can cover really well. And no one knows if you miss the mark on something like you do. So, for me going through that whole week, it was a lot of headaches. Funny enough, on Wednesday, when we normally do a dark broadcast day for that race, bring the whole team in and do a practice run offline, 9:30 in the morning, a big gust of wind comes through, blows over a laptop, destroys the screen, blows over this other monitor, destroys the screen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we just lost like a ton of equipment. I thought the whole laptop was completely done. And so it meant to run over to a micro center down the road, got the laptop fixed. They gave us a borrowed screen, which was super nice of them. Came back, solved that problem. And then the rest of the week was just kind of solving problems. We signed the title sponsor, Don't Sleep Energy Drink, on Monday evening. So, events like that, that's where it's fun to talk about once you get through the storm of this was an insane story of how it all came together. But it actually, in the moment, is not all that fun. It is very, very stressful. And I didn't even eat a thing besides maybe like a little breakfast protein shake in the morning on Super Sunday until we had finally gotten into and completed the Pro Shifter main. Because I was so worried about screwing something up on the live run and how we were doing the driver intros and the rest of the day. And it's a lot. And I thankfully this year, had the foresight to bring in a superstar like Henry, bring back a superstar like Mike. Obviously, Rob is the voice of the Supernats. He's always going to be there. But that allowed me to run errands off-site Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday when we were really operating. And then Saturday and Sunday get to kind of float around a little bit and manage the whole thing, and then just kind of jump in for fun when I'd like to, on commentary. So yeah, it's a insane production for us every year. I have a terrible addiction of trying to be really aggressive with growth and try new stuff a little bit early. Rob's always trying to caution me, be like, you're doing really good. Like, you don't need to, swing for a grand slam every single time. We can hit a few singles and we'll get around the bases. It obviously went really good. Views were really good. And we just have the best team. We have such a huge cast of characters that are so motivated, so passionate, and at the end of the day, Super Sunday, even like during night rehearsals we were doing, these guys are having way too much fun, messing around with trying to get the timing right for driver intros. They're dancing on the stage and everything. They're camera guys. It's
Oh
a
yeah.
fun week for them. It's a stressful week for me.
Yeah, I completely understand that, because you're the one running the show, and you're trying to make sure that all the chess pieces are in place, that there's no stone left unturned. It's like with myself with a lot of the streams that I do, and Henry, who I've tried to get on the show so far, every single time, it's not that he's been evading me, it's just that it hasn't worked out for one reason or another. So, Mr. Bodette, got to make sure your ass is on this show later on this year. 100% that's going to happen. Whether we have to wait until the grand finals in Sarno this year, I don't really care. But yeah, it's sort of like, from my perspective, when a lot of people think when you are doing a live stream, and with Camp Company GmbH, who I've been working with for the past 6 years, there has been a significant amount of investment. And you'll understand this as well, Xander, that the amount of tech that you bring, you're not just bringing computers, you're possibly bringing your own modems for 5G Wi-Fi connections. You've then got the screens, you've then got the camera gear, then you've got all the cabling, you've got to bring extension cables, God knows whatever else. The amount of equipment I see is normally 4 cameras with encoders and decoders, which allow us to do a 1080p 60 frame a second. Then I'm dictating how the run of show's going to go. So I understand that attention to detail. And being a Virgo, yes, Virgos are very, very pernickety when it comes to all the little details. But as you said, you're fighting fires all the time. But there's that gratification, as you said, at the end of it all, when the dust has settled, you're now able to chill out, have a drink with the crew, have a meal, and go like, God, we got through that.
Yeah, and you wake up the next day, or even you see some of the live comments, and for the most part, a lot of it's so positive, right? I think it's pretty evident, here stateside, and anyone that sees what we do, that how much we're pushing the envelope, and we get a lot of appreciation. There's no doubt about it that we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are, and we might not even be here at all if it weren't for a super supportive paddock, a super supportive industry, top to bottom, from families, drivers, team owners, series owners, manufacturers, you name it, and not just kind words, but hey, do you need help getting this from point A to point B? Are you a little bit low on your advertising capacity right now? Do you need a little bit? Hey, I'll buy an ad, right? It may not even make sense for what I'm trying to sell, or I might have already been done it, but let me keep this going because I like what you're doing. I see you're working hard, and I see that you care. And that's been one of the cooler things about it, that when you go through these stressful weekends and you have the really demanding schedule that we do, and you put in all that time, and you can see the appreciation. And I think what's been one of the coolest aspects is I've didn't get to really race to the level that I would have liked, but even then I didn't really get in until I was about 12 years old. I was begging my parents since I was 6 or 7, making PowerPoints and everything, but money was never there, and we had no intel really more than anything. So as our financial situation got better as I grew up, not only that, we found some friends that were doing it, and that was the confidence that we felt enough to buy a go-kart. But I read every EKN article, Kart 360 article, T-Kart article, video online, from 2008 on, and was a huge fan of the sport. And so, as I got into racing more, I still stayed a fan, and looked up to senior drivers, and idolized a lot of people. And so to see the young kids, having what we're able to put out and idolize and become fans of the superstars of our sport, and then even for me, like to get asked by a parent, a dad or mom, saying, hey, my son or my daughter's a huge fan of Kart Chaser, a huge fan of you and what you do. Would you mind taking a picture? They're a little bit too nervous to come and say hi. And
yeah.
I was that kid that was too nervous to come and say hi all the way into my early teens with people that I looked up to. So I mean, you have moments like that, and all of the hard work, the stress of trying to build a small business and
Hmm.
not knowing how you're going to make ends meet at times, and going through months like what we had in December, where it's what's our schedule going to look like? Am I going to have enough events to pay all my people? Are we going to have any advertising at all? Is all the money going to go where it needs to go? Are we going to be able to grow like we hope we are? Or all of that is 100% worth it when you see the impact that we get to make, and that gets echoed. So you get through an event like Supernats, and you see everything online, you hear it from everyone in the pits. It's super super cool and rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, folks, I didn't care how late I was staying up. I was watching every single second of the awesome coverage from all the team at Kart Chaser. And the thing is that being a fellow commentator and someone who understands the sport is you have an appreciation for people who are in the same field. And so Xander, that to me, it's great that you guys are just pushing the envelope out there at the stateside. It's great because it gives us an opportunity. Like I still remember Chase Hand, and I was like thinking, holy cow, that's Joey Hand's kid. And like looking at how tall he is now. And I still remember meeting Joey when Joey was running for BMW Motorsport for DTM. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful guy. And it's so
Oh,
cool.
he's awesome, man.
I mean, like, the first man to use the hashtag giddy up on social media was Joey Hand, plain and simple. And now I was that was the first hashtag that came into my mind when it went, oh Jesus, Joey Hand, his boys out there, and he's doing really really well. I think it's just like, and then you see the amount of Brits that are now coming over, because I want to get
Yeah.
into. Now, you've already talked about this on episode 11 of the Xander Clements podcast on Kart Chaser, which has just gone online. So link for that, folks, is down in the description below. And it'll give you a bit more information about what is changing for Kart Chaser for 2024. Because I want to let Xander to tell that via that podcast. So that'll be in the links in the description below. I've already watched it. Great show. And if you want me to be a guest on there, I'll be more than happy to reciprocate, my friend. So
Thank you.
But I think there's been a lot of changes. I mean, Danny Formal has re-signed to a part-time schedule with Rollinson Performance Group, who just received the Kart Chaser Team of the Year award. Great to hear from Mike Rollinson on the Kart Chaser show's socials. But I think the biggest news was that longtime Birrell ART driver Martin Kramers has just signed with Tony Kart for 2024. And that's big news. I think not just for the UK, but then could that mean that a factory Tony Kart outfit in the US could say to Martin and say, right, come on, try and get one up on Danny Formal for 2024 at Supernats? Could we see that happening?
I think so. Well, Marian, I've got a great relationship with Marian over these last couple of years. He is a really great guy. We've had a lot of fun times together at the track, away from the track. There's times that we love to get Airbnbs for Kart Chaser for our team, because we're right at that sweet spot size, usually at around 8 to 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
End of the weekend, we'll host everyone, have a little party, and invite people over and have a good time. And Marian's always one of the first ones, like, hey, where are we hanging out tonight? Like, what are we doing? He's such a good guy. And so, I've known him a while, and I know he'd love to, eventually, it sounds like at least, maybe even build a life over here and live over here, down the line. And the unfortunate part for him is, as good as he is and as talented as he is and as deserving as he is to get paid for the next 25 years, making loads amount of money in professional motorsport. If you don't have money, it's a lot harder to get there. But I'm super happy for him with Tony Kart. And you look at the schedule, because I was texting him, he's like, I think the dates line up to run not just the Supernats, but the SKUSA Pro Tour. The Supernats is an easy one to get to. That normally always falls outside of the realm of, the KZ guys especially, but even the OK and OKJ schedule. There was like only 1 year I can remember in the last 5 to 10 where it hit, and it was when the Worlds went to Bahrain and moved later into the year. So
Yes, yeah, I remember
yeah.
that because Antonio Pisonia Senior had qualified through the Winter Trophy, but ended up doing Supernats instead that year, if I remember correctly, in 21.
Mhm.
So
Well,
yeah,
that for the Rotax Grand Finals, but also there was an FIA World Championship race, I think around that time, a couple of years prior too,
hmm
at Bahrain. But yeah, for sure, I would imagine him coming over here, for Supernats. I think optimistically he gets over here for the Pro Tour.
hmm
But when you look at logistics for them, right? Uh, the main OTK team, is Rawlison Performance Group, right?
yeah,
They're not Tony Kart, they're Cosmic, to be fair. But whenever they send over Factory Vortex guys, that's normally where they go. There are some other really, really good Tony Kart teams out there. Ryan Perry Motorsports won. The Brandon Jarscrack Racing and Mike Doty Racing outfit together, that's not a globally known brand. They don't have a big digital presence.
hmm
But, those are two kind of American greats of two different generations. Jarscrack was racing actually when the Kart Chaser brand started in 2020, and he was kind of the East Coast, Eastern U.S. champion 4 times over when Norberg was the 4-time Western half champion. Norberg won 4 SCUSA Pro Tour titles. Jarscrack won 4 U.S. Pro Kart Series titles. And
hmm
then it was like that was, two guys at the same Jarscrack about a year and a half older. And now he's doing his own race team. So they have a huge contingent. They're based at one of our most popular tracks. Our PFI, if you will, is Trackhouse Motorplex, formerly GoPro Motorplex. So I could see maybe there, right? But they don't do a lot of shifter stuff.
mm.
And from RPG's perspective, you've already got Danny Formal. They're bringing in Cooper Becklin as kind of a new
Yep,
number 2 guy to develop into being maybe a Formal level guy. So is there a big benefit for Marian to go, from Rawlison Performance Group's perspective? Maybe, maybe not. There's
yeah,
strength in numbers when you dominate the way GFC did in the middle part of the year, but I think for sure he wants to get there. Tony Kart knows they sell a lot of go-karts based on their SCUSA Pro Tour and USPKS Series results,
hmm
along with the Supernats. So it only helps them to have another guy that can fill the podium. Um, and the dates line up for the Pro Tour. And one thing that is super exciting this year is all the purse money and prizes that are going to be on the American regular season championships. SCUSA Pro Tour for the X30 Pro and the shifter classes is a 50 grand evaluation on the season for prize money. And that's not just the top 3 in each race, it's the top 10 in the championship.
hmm
And the top 10 also have a contingency of entry and tires for the following year. And the USPKS always comes with a big amount of prize money that'll at least for sure probably be the same per weekend and something pretty beefy for their championship as well. So when you look at it like that, if you think a guy can win, you don't even have to worry about the cost per se, right? If
hmm
there's also a team bonus of 5 grand for the 2 guys as if they pick for the season with the constructors like F1. So if you, man, Danny Formal and Marin Kremers, like what a 1-2 punch that would be,
That would,
for
yeah,
those
that'd be
guys.
that'd be like Deontay Wilder throwing an overhand right and knocking his next opponent out. I mean, that coming back to RPG as well for the X30 Pro lineup, you've got Donovan Bonella and Ryan Norberg both returning full time, Hayden
Mm-hmm.
Jones returning for the full SCUSA calendar, and also for selected USPKS events. I mean, again, Norberg, as you said, has been a multi-time stateside champion and runs his own academy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Donovan Bonella's really, really showcasing good prowess and is gaining racecraft all the time. I mean, Mike Rollinson's got a trio of drivers there that I think are going to not just wipe the floor with everybody, but make an impact and a big one too.
I mean, they have done, when you look at, and I tell parents this all the time, when you look at a team and you want to judge how good that team is, you look at their in-house developed talents, right? Ryan Norberg was an all-star already before he went to RPG. And granted,
hmm
his role at RPG is not just to go win races, it's to be the driver coach for the majority of the drivers on the team as well. It's what Formal does. He normally works with the juniors when they normally don't have a lot of shifters. Formal works, or Norberg will work with a lot of seniors, and they'll even have sometimes a specialized guy in the 100cc senior class to work
hmm
with everyone. But they all do training weekends, and so Donovan Bonilla, Ernesto Rivera, you know, even Max Taylor to a degree. Those are kind of like in-house developed superstars.
Mm-hmm.
And RPG's been doing this for years. The most recent and the only female to win a headline SCUSA Pro Tour championship in the series' 14-year history is Hannah Greenemeyer. And she was under RPG's development from when she was in mini all the way through juniors and into senior, and beat Ryan to a SCUSA Pro Tour National Championship in 2021. So they've produced a lot of drivers that come in, they're with them for 1 to 2 years, and they level up. And Hayden Jones is another example of that, because Hayden was good at his home track previously when he moved into senior, and he was decent. He was maybe a 5th to 15th place driver. And then once he jumped over to RPG in the fall of 2022, it was maybe mid 2020, maybe it was for the 2022 season. It was fall of 21 into 2022, signed with them. I mean, he a whole new level, started winning some races, and then when he came back to them in 2023 after going to the Kart Republic guys, goes right back to the top. So, that's not just a superstar driver. That is, a superstar team. And what a lot of people don't understand when you're at the track is a lot of the team setups look similar. Big hauler, nice, pretty tent, good hospitality area. You don't see the work that goes beyond the races. RPG is the closest thing we in America have to a factory race team, all the way to the training center and factory setup they have that you won't ever see. I've only heard stories about it, but I know just from hearing about it and seeing the results they have that they have everything they need to probably go head to head with any major factory over in Italy right now. If you took that building and you plop that across the pond.
It kind of reminds me of over here in the UK, we have several top teams such as Strawberry Racing, which is the OTK arm for the United Kingdom and continental Europe when it comes to Rotax. But then you've got Dan Holland Racing, and whenever I see their awning, big ass big ass hauler, great tent, and when I walk in, like as commentators, we like to go and not sort of bum rush them, but we sometimes doorstep the tents and catch up with certain drivers that we've gotten to know. And people might say, yeah, well, you guys have favourites. No, we don't have favourites. There are people that stand out to us, and if there's something that's not quite right, you need to build that story into the broadcast. So the first thing you're going to go is sort of like, what happened? Like Heat 3, like say for instance, B&L Karting Series Austriacourt last August. Great battle between, I think it was Bran van der Weyken and Vic van Kampenhout. One was running on an X-Prix for GKS, which used to run the likes of Jensen Button back in his days over in continental Europe. Vic van Kampenhout running on the Formula K, effectively a Praga underneath. Their line astern going into this, like where you get those sort of like piff-paff chicanes, and you get those nasty bits of curbing. Well, Vic van Kampenhout is ahead of Bran van der Weyken and has mullered the curb with the left rear. And what's on that side? The chain. And literally has jumped off the sprocket and taken him out. So he's like literally pulled over to the left-hand side. And it's only when I went to speak to his dad and I said, what happened? He went, yeah, he walloped the curb, chain came off. Those are the things. So, like, if you see like, say, Joe Turney, Brandon Carl, we'll get onto them in a minute, especially with the big news about Trinity Kart Group for 2024, which is huge. And I'm really, really excited about that because Joe and Brandon have come over, along with the likes of Harley Keeble, who's sticking with Sodi Kart USA for next year, for this year. I can't believe it. We're a few days in and I'm doing it already. You've probably done it as well, Xander, like saying, yeah, next year. Oh, shit, it's already 2024.
I paused for a second saying 2024. I was about to say 2023. Yeah, I'm not ready yet.
No,
but it's here.
Neither am I. But we always find those stories. But let's get on to TKG. Factory Kart Republic team. Deanna Chiesa, really, really pleased. And we've got Brandon Carr, who was lightning quick last year. Joe, I know Joe back from when he was running with KR Sport. I still remember him back in 2018 doing an absolute number on everybody. Won the weekend, clean sweep. Just a great guy, great ambassador for karting, great addition to Kart Republic, of course. The FIA World Championships last year, an unfortunate set of circumstances, but they've got. So Joe's going to be joining the team when his calendar allows. Brandon's now joined them full time, along with Finnegan Bailey, a bailiff as well, for the X30 Pro lineup. And then we go to Gavin Bailiff joining for a full season pro shifter campaign. That's exciting for TKG. And I'm really pleased that they've got the Kart Republic endorsement by Deanna Chiesa for 2024 over in the States.
Yeah. So TKG is it's a family-owned brand. The Bailiff family owns it, so obviously Gavin and Finn will drive for them forever. But the boys work hard. It's a really well done race team. It's based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which the family also owns. So by having a track, having a real life dyno, and I'm hoping this year that maybe we can do some stuff with them that really shows off the level that facility is at, because they have an engine builder's paradise in the back room. They can print their own, they've got their own sticker printer. They've got a great relationship with their own in-house suits. So another team that, is developing itself to be like the likes of RPG, and is already very, very close when it comes to the presentation of, the at-track presence, the facilities that they have at their home base in Cincinnati, Ohio, is also there. All that they were really missing was that last bit of expertise and touch, that they had really well in the micro and the mini categories, with a really good coach that came along. Lucas Palacio won everything under the sun in our mini categories. And so they had a lot of drivers coming over there, and it was very similar to the Fusion guys that you guys have over there.
Yeah.
For the year, it felt like, of how good they were, but they were lacking, a bit of pace and a bit of, really more so, consistency. And that comes down to having expertise in the tent guiding with setup. And when Turney was over here, he was kind of on an island because he was with the smaller satellite KR team, Chad Dawkin Racing. And so the way that the structure was in 2023 was KR would send Turney, and the KR distributor here for the U.S., which is the same ownership group that owns Trackhouse Motorplex, imports the IAMI and MG Tires engines, and owns the Homestead AMR Motorplex that I used to work at. That same group is the KR importer as well, and so they don't do a race team since they import the tires and the engines anymore, and they just kind of would place Joe in one tent or another to help support any of the random dealer teams. He was never really with the Trinity guys. He was only with Chad Dawkins. That was a newer team. They wanted to help out and send the superstar there. Trinity was kind of set and good. Now, with him going to Trinity exclusively, and you have Brandon Carr, who I talked about a little bit on that podcast yesterday, that, the places where Brandon wasn't fast, one of the few places was the Cincinnati racetrack. And I know Finn will be fast. And Finn and Gavin both kind of jumped into X30 when they were pretty young, and then split apart, did a lot more KA racing the last few years, have had some good runs over the last couple of years doing the semi-pro category here we have at all of our races with the 100cc division. But then this year, again, both those boys working for the team, the SCUSA Pro Tour, the Stars Championship Series, doing a completely new race format that's a split-day structure with the pro classes in a total end of the day. And so Finn and Gavin can go back to being team employees essentially for 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's the extra push that'll allow them to get to move back up to pro categories full time, which Gavin did a lot of last year in shifter stuff anyway. So I think Finn, with kind of a, it's almost like a driver, in F1 standards, going from a top team to, like an Alex Albon type scenario, maybe didn't perform right off the rip, goes down, develops, and is going to come back up and is going to perform really, really well. And Gavin's only gotten faster and faster in the shifter. So I think those guys will be good. And again, when you put, Joe hasn't had any teammates to both compare data off of and coach in the way Ryan has. And I'd put, you got two superstar talents there. So to have Carr be able to be with Joe, and Brandon's already a really fast, super talented kid on his own. And for Finn as well, when Finn ran and Gavin ran, they were the lead drivers, and they were developing on their own, trying to get coached, but everyone behind the rest of the tent was, for the most part, slower than them. So now they've got 1 to 2 fast guys joining them, at least on the X30 side, that,
Yeah.
If Finn, to warm himself back to X30 at a certain track he's not fast at, he's not going to be on an island. He's going to have teammates. And I think those guys are going to do really good. And like you said, to have Dino's stamp of approval to make that the official team, that comes because the Sodi guys, with Harley especially, invaded in the U.S. in a strong way. And it was, an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of other manufacturers that, wow, we need to take the U.S. market a little bit more seriously, and we need to start really getting some factory-backed efforts here. And for Trinity to have that, the facilities are there. They're going to do really good this year. So it's exciting to watch on the sidelines, to see all this stuff come together. And as an American, to see more guys want to come and race over here, there's a lot of pride in that I take for sure.
Yeah, I mean, let's now turn to GFC. They've re-signed Kyle Wick, who was absolutely brilliant at Supernats 26, Jacob Gulick, and they've now brought Hunter Pickett on board as well. So a nice bit of consistency for GFC there. I would, because if I remember correctly, that's also where Chase Hand, son of long-time sports car man who's getting back in the Stang with Ford Performance for 2024, Joey Hand. Chase was incredibly impressive at Supernats 26 this past fall. Great to see that GFC have got a bit of consistency and that Kyle's really looking forward to being back with the team, but also helping the younger drivers in the team actually evolve as well. Again, another showcase of the older generation of well-known, well-documented American kart racers helping to bring the new generation in.
Yeah, so Kyle and his dad, they have a lot of kind of, they have kind of their own almost regional satellite team set up in the Pacific Northwest. They're kind of an extra extension of the GFC brand, and they're going to have their own, drivers are going to take down under the GFC tent to the West Coast Winter Series, the Challenge of the Americas that unfortunately we won't be covering, but we'll see GFC at the SCUSA Pro Tour, and you talk, I'm talking about in-house factory setups. Trinity's, almost there. RPG, is absolutely there. GFC is pretty much there as well in the KZ category, and was on pole at Supernats with a guy that nobody would have picked to go to pole, would have never picked to win a race a year ago with Jacob Gulick, and both drivers were fast enough to win. Kyle Wick especially coming through the field to go to 6th, and Gulick would have been there had he not crashed with AJ in the top 5 also. Against all of the factory TMs, factory Vortex with Danny, it was an American engine builder with Swede Tech, and then an IAME KZ. So, one of the few in the field. So they also are like a full, in-house deal. And the most exciting thing, is that they're putting together a team to go to the FIA KZ World Championships this year, and fully represent a complete American effort. And again, talk about American pride, right? Like Gary Carlton was our superstar for a decade, from the late 2000s to the early 2010s, is one of the only paid true factory American U.S. drivers. And so now to have his own race team, his own brand, his chassis line, again, the GFC brand, he's very adamant. It's a brand. It's an all-in-one thing that we want everyone to get a part of. We're not just a race team. We're not just a chassis. We're everything. And to have that brand get an international presence over in the FIA stuff is really exciting. And then Hunter Pickett coming back, they have a close relationship. The Pickett family does with Gary. He drove with them for many years on the brand before going to PSL, and then now it's kind of a homecoming for Hunter to be back with them. It makes a lot of sense. He lives, right near. They share workspace at the shop. The Jim Weed energy drink, which is the latest drink from the Pickett family, which I don't know if you're super familiar with them, but grandfather Pickett founded Muscle Milk, and they're still very well involved in the drink space. Of course, Muscle Milk had the Muscle Milk race team and American Le Mans Series for many, many years, and plenty of other racing. So
if I remember, Jan Mardenborough actually raced with them as well. And I still remember, for those wondering, it is the Welshman from Cardiff in Wales, which is actually where some of my family are based, and not too far from where Henry lives. That's where he's from. His dad actually used to play soccer, or as you call it in the States, or as we call it football over here in the UK. And the thing is, this is where even though there are slight differences in terminologies that either myself or Xander would use, the thing is, I'd rather tell you people both terms, because then there's no conflict, there's no sort of arguing with each other. But I think it's, muscle milk has been long as so. I mean, I've watched so much American racing, and I'm not just talking karting. IndyCar, IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. I even watched the MX5s that have been, when you have like the likes of Shea Adam and John Hindle commentating on, and it's absolute madness at every single circuit. But yeah, so again, another drinks brand from the Pickett family. Well, small world, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're still super involved in the space, and super supportive, and they've got Hunter's nephew is Turner Brown, who was the junior kid that doubled up at Supernats as well. And then, Hunter is now a two-time dad. He just had his second son earlier this year. I believe it was a son, second kid for sure. I think it was second, but I know that the oldest boy already has his baby cart ready to go. So generation number 4 for the Pickett family racing lineage is not far away. And I remember asking Hunter, I was like, how many more years you got left in you? He's like, oh, no, she knows that I want to keep going. So we're going to keep on racing until I can't. But they're great people, so that's cool to see them together.
Sounds a bit like the Pizzonia family, doesn't it? With father and son racing. But then we turn our attention to PSL. Hunter leaves. Mateus Morgado, the most recent Brazilian FIA world champion, joins Diego Ramos. And Mateus is going to be running in Pro Shifter all season. That's pretty exciting, considering what chassis he was running on when he won the world title a couple of years ago.
Yeah. For him, he's got a busy year, man. Ramos is going to be an American-only guy. They sent him to the Rock International Final last year. I think he got the ticket to the Florida Winter Tour, and they set up a deal to get him to go and run that, which was pretty cool of them. But he's lives in Orlando, Florida. He's from Brazil. It's an all Brazilian lineup, but Ramos lives in the States here and does a lot of coaching work at Orlando. So his racing schedule is kind of where he can, and it's PSL helps him out enough where he's able to get the paid drive to run for them on X30, and it sounds like they're going to be doing some OKN stuff this year with the Star Series, but I'm not sure where their schedule is going to lie. But I could see it, being that they're the TM related team for the States. And then Morgado, he dipped his toes into gearbox stuff last year. Every once in a while at an American race, Marian would let Mateus go out on the Thursday test day and play around with the shifter. And I knew that, that was the next challenge, right? For, the typical FIA ladder. If you win the OK championship, the last few guys, it's all right, time to start getting into the KZ2 class. So he did that last year, but he also still ran OK. Over here, he just ran single speed. And we talked about it on the show too. It's like this is the first time since about probably AJ Myers that a superstar from the single speed pro class moves up and over into the pro shifter class. And I think he's going to do really, really good because, the European level of shifter racing is similar to how we've always compared ourselves when you look at the FIA level more than anything. It's not necessarily that we're lacking on drivers that can go to the absolute limit. I think Supernats and some of the other Pro Tour events have shown that when we bring in other superstars to American racing that, they don't just put 30 seconds on us, but there's so many more of them. And the hardest thing about shifter racing is passing and defending and navigating traffic. So the fact that his first year was done with European races, I think is going to be a walk in the park in the transition over in America when you don't have 30 guys around you at the same speed. You have more like 5 to 10. An even softer launch is what we'll see next week with the SCUSA Winter Series, because that region of the country doesn't have a lot for shifters. And with it being a more expensive category to run, you don't see a lot, of guys travel. I mean, Danilo Albanese, I'm sure we'll get to as well on another shifter guy.
We'll be getting on to next anyway with Inter MS.
Yeah, he's he's not running shifter at the Winter Series. The FIA KZ, pro shifter European champion, is not running shifter in the first race. He's going to run X30. He'll wait on shifter for the Pro Tour. So next week, it looks like it's probably going to be around 15 guys. It'll be 4-mile racing and then Morgado. And I think Mateus can probably, put some pressure on him. I think he's going to be really, really good. And we've seen the Burrell shifter obviously be good with Marin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Marin was trying to close in on Danny in the main event. On Pro Shifter at Supernats 26. But yeah, let's turn our attention to Inter MS. So Danilo Albanese, current reigning and defending FIA European champion, unfortunately not able to make it past the opening lap. If anyone might have seen the absolute cluster. I'm not going to put the F word after that one. There's only so many limits that I will go to, where we saw Troger go. Also, we saw Emilian Denner. And that was not his first major accident in a final, through no fault of his own. We also had lap one when you basically said, and these are the words, and I quote what this particular announcer said: look at the big guy all the way round the outside, but he goes a little bit deep, and then straight away they go into turn 2, and Denner's off. Well, he's turned around, he's 90 degrees the wrong way, front fairing's off, and he's out on the opening lap. Denner just doesn't seem to have any luck at the minute, does he? I mean, first Wackersdorf and then Supernats in Pro Shifter, both on the opening lap.
Yeah, now the comment said the same thing, and my heart broke as soon as I saw that guy get turned in front of the field because, he is such a likable guy, and he has such a good and, vibrant and fun personality. I mean, we're really used to the first time that a driver gets running up front and we start putting them through the media ringer a lot, that it takes a while to come out of the shell. Took about a race or two for Joe Turney to be comfortable with all the extra media we do. And by the end of the year, he was having a ton of fun with it. Mateus Morgado in the Florida Winter Tour 2022, was a bit tough, and Diego Ramos as well. And now, Mateus is asking me to do TikToks.
Oh, no.
And before it was like pulling teeth to get him to do them, right? So for like Senna Van Walstein and Emilian, both guys, when they came over here, like right off the gun, great on camera, super great off camera to talk to, and everyone echoes the same thing. I mean, he's just, we had the little segment where him and, DeTulio and Harley were trying to draw the Supernats track and different layouts, and he's just such a fun guy. So you want to root for him. He's so likable. And to have him have the year that he had where, gosh, he should have taken some big wins. And because to me, right, that wreck, it obviously took him out. In my opinion, it also took Marian out of contention because Marian kind of ramped over the right rear tire, I think of him or someone else. And so that probably bent him a little bit, but also that wreck sent Marian back 4 seconds. He ended up about 2.5 seconds back at the line. If that wreck doesn't happen, there's a lot more players in there. And Denner was my pick to win because watching him through the heat races and even talking with Formal at the end of the night, one of the nights, he was one of the only guys that could stay in a higher gear in some of the sections that were, really, really tight and twisty, like that infield chicane. And you could see it perfectly on the broadcast in that last corner, like how much grip he had in his car and his package and how he was driving it. I mean, he looked like a freaking rocket ship. And I think with how cold the track got in that main by taking the 20, 30-minute break, or probably about 15, 20, to prep the track and then do driver intros, he would have been gone. I think if he does not get spun on the first lap, we're sitting here 2 months later talking about Emilian Denner as the Supernats 26 champion. All the respect in the world to Formal, it goes out, but there's no question that guy is a stud, and I hope this year is his year.
I was kind of thinking, that if things had been clean on those opening couple of corners, through that hairpin left at turn one, that heavy braking zone with Danny just going for it because he knew he had nothing. He thought, right, okay, I've got to put some pressure on people, and that's got to be Emilien, that's got to be Marin. And I could tell just by the way now I'm not a competitive racer, but I know when the driver's going to risk it. And that was what I saw from Danny. He just threw it around the outside and went, oh, this could be a 3-horse race, but only for the first maybe 5 to 10 laps. Where you could probably see that Emilien if Emilien got in front of Martin and Danny, that he might have played a little bit of a chess game, just kept the car, not let the tyres degrade whilst the other two are trying to have to push to catch up with him. And then when he knows that they're starting to fade, then bang, he would be off like a rocket and probably win by at least 5 seconds at the end of the race. But control it to his pace. But yeah, like you said, it's just I'm hoping that Emilien Denner has a really so much better 2024 season. As soon as he's got the FIA Europeans and the Worlds out of the way, and then come back to Nevada for Supernats 27, and then just go, right, this is what you didn't see last year, and then just put a number on everybody. Coming back into MS, Alessandro Di Tullio, a driver who you just mentioned as well, is going to be returning for a full season. And that's going to be great consistency for Alessandro as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the dude was on 3 different manufacturers, 3 different race teams in the first 6 months of 2023. Started with Parolin USA, goes to, PSL with Burrell Art and Prime Power Team, the Canadian major race team. And then after that, ends up over at Enter MS, which is a Miami-based team, which means he gets to do a lot more testing with them, a lot more coaching and development because he lives down in Miami. He is always wicked fast at Homestead and at low grip racetracks. And if you look at his year, even through 3 completely different, and I'm not just talking different chassis brands, like someone from a Cosmic to a Tony kart, or even something that's slightly different, like TB karts and GFCs come out of the same factory, but they're different frame designs.
Yeah.
Oh, he was on 3 different factories, components, everything, and still had the best average finish without having a win. Of all the drivers that did not have a main event win, the only one that was better than him was, I think, Joe Turney, and I think Morgado might have ended up just a tick better. So, he had the worst finish of 11th coming into Vegas season. So he is super consistent, super solid everywhere, and especially at Homestead, there's no question that he's a favorite to start the year, being that it's his home racetrack, and you look at how good Kart Republic was with Turney a year ago. So it's cool for him, and really, it's only his 3rd kind of full season he's entering, 4th season technically in senior. We ran a partial season in 2021, so 22, 23, 2 full years, and then 2024, now becomes kind of year 3 really, but on paper year 4. So he's developed into a superstar, and I think he's going to probably be a big asset to Danilo Albanese to get up to speed instantly, because I don't know when the last time that guy's driven a single speed go-kart.
Probably not for quite a few years, actually, I think.
Yeah.
But
so
it's going to be interesting to see. Then we look at Soda USA. Harley Keeble returns full time. Dalton Haynes, who's I think he's just won an award with you guys as well, if I remember, Performance of the Year.
Yeah, Performance of the Year for his win at the Miami Grands that set a lot of this into motion. That was his home track, home race, 2021, 2 years ago, our first ever stream. They laid it all on the line, every dollar that they had that they were committed to spend, put it on pole, drove from 17th to 2nd in the main after having some mechanicals in the heats. And then that led them to getting a Supernats opportunity, drove it, finished in the top 10, first ever Supernats, first ever street race. Then 2022, a little bit rougher, but got some rides, some partial deals, opportunities, and then that kind of faded away. And then, he started, this is full circle for him. He was the cameraman on one of the 3 on-track cameramen at the Winter Series 1 year ago, watching the guys race and saying, man, I'd love to be out there again, and I know I can go and still get it done. And now he gets to enter Homestead. He's there. He flew in today, and gets to race again. And for the first time, he gets to race the Winter Series. He's never raced at Homestead before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool, and it all, again, another kind of last second deal. I think it's only come together really in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I don't think it happens, like I said, without all of the series offering all the contingency prizes they do that kind of help subsidize a manufacturer like Sodi to justify sponsoring drivers the way they do. With Harley's going to run X30 and shifter racing this year.
Oh, mamma
They've
mia.
also got a shifter driver. The announcement comes out tomorrow with Alan Isambard, who's a local Florida, guy who's gotten a couple national starts in the last year and then with shifter. He's going to be there. So Harley's going to be double duty at a lot of events with Dalton in the X30, with Isambard in the shifter. And again, Sodi led the way last year with such a massive investment in the racing in the U.S. and in their brand. And I'm not just talking about sponsoring drivers to run the pro classes that we're all fans of, but really setting up a good system of
Mm-hmm.
dealer teams in small regions and from micro to master. They put a lot of the right stuff in place, and it sounds like they're ready to double down and do it again, and it made sense in to do more in 2024, which is just a cool marriage to have an up and coming brand with a driver that a lot of our fans have been pulling for, to get that kind of big break, because he's betting on himself a lot, and now he enters a year for the first time, I think, probably in his career, with a confirmed schedule of more than one race.
True. I mean, Sodi Kart has been trying for years to get an FIA World Karting title, and that did not happen. Their biggest chance was a man we previously mentioned, Emilian Denner. I remember watching that KZ final. Former champ Jeremy Iglesias out with damage, and he was running with CRG. Senna van Valsten, who I personally know anyway, funny enough, has just had surgery on his shoulder, so get well soon, Senna. Want to see you back in a kart as soon as possible, buddy. Funny enough, was there at the Grand Finals, and was also when I was at the MENA Karting Championship Nations Cup in Lusail and Qatar, actually the week before Christmas. He was there helping out as well. Then we turn to Praga, USA, and we look at the lineup for them. We've got Celso Neto and Kiko Porto, both with confirmed schedules. Kiko running full-time in Pro Shifter. Celso racing full-time in X30 Pro Senior. Scusa, FWT Orlando, Rotax Winter Trophy, Rock Vegas, and Supernats 27. Seems like they're, according to the official Kart Chaser Instagram, saying in their debut US Pro National season, Praga Kart USA is coming out swinging.
Yeah, I mean, this one we got sent to us a couple days ago, and it was kind of a whoa moment. IPK, after they won their world title, kind of took a step back. In the U.S., they've kind of bounced their importership around the last few years. Was with Leading Edge Motorsports, was the previous home for Danny Formal before he signed with RPG in the summer of 2022. They won a lot of races with him, with an American model that the Leading Edge Motorsports really pioneered. They plucked Leading Edge Motorsports from it, and then had Ansa Motorsports as kind of the team that was supposed to carry the banner this past year. Unfortunately, the man behind Ansa Motorsports, Patrick Otto Madsen, sadly passed away earlier that year, last year. And so, that kind of left them with not a lot of direction. And Elio Brandau is a guy I'm not too familiar with. I haven't met him yet in person. But, he's a stock car Brazil team owner, obviously really passionate racer. And to, go from last year, we saw, the Kanjan Apatak family and Jonathan Markuson and a couple other people running Pragas at the RMC Winter Trophy. But it was just a small, somewhat independent looking, effort out of their garages at Orlando and then a tent at PK. And to go from that to saying no, we're running a full national schedule and we're getting two sponsored guys to do it. And Celso Neto is not as big of a name, in American motorsport right now. He was kind of earlier and lower on the tracks, right? Just doing some Skip Barber races and kind of all over. But Kiko Porto, you're talking about a kid that had a few sponsors, might go on the right way, and maybe still could go the right way, would be in an Indy Lights or Indy NXT car this year, the series below IndyCar. Like that's pretty big news to me that guy, personally is like, what, this is an interesting project, and coming to racing karts again is exciting to me to commit to race. So that's exciting. Celso, I think he'll be good at Orlando, I'm optimistic for how his first national year with a big factory level effort, if it becomes a factory level effort, I should say, looks like. But Kiko, I'm cautiously optimistic about. I think he could really make some noise if he's still got it in a go-kart the way that he had in a race car, because that kid's good.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be very interesting to see. I like the fact you mentioned Stock Car Pro Series. Well, I've commentated on Rubens and Eduardo last year, and that was literally actually called on Motorsport.tv. Dudu's winning Cascavel.
Oh, cool!
Which was pretty cool, and then to catch up with, I work as part of the Rotax media team. For those people that don't know,
right?
Everyone that wonders who does the daily reports. That's me. That's me. Like literally, I was like thinking, okay. So I still remember Cody, our good friend from Canadian Karting News, who's going to get called to be on this show, Mr. Schindel, took a really wonderful photograph of me, actually just going up to speak to Rubens when he qualified for Portimao along with Eduardo. And it was and I just introduced myself. I said, Rubens, I thought I'd just come over and say hi. My name's Alex. I'm part of the Rotax media team. I've followed you all the way through your career. It's a real privilege to have you here. And they had, I think it was the Qatar FIFA World Cup that week, and Brazil were playing one night. And so I walked, and what I tended to do, because I wasn't in the booth like Henry was, I was commentating on the E20 electric karts for Rotax, which are on the Sodi Sigma DD2 chassis with the front and rear braking systems. I actually went over to Rubens and I said, "Oh, how was the game last night?" Just like, and folks, the thing is, these drivers are human beings. It doesn't matter what age or what stage of their career they're in. So I've called it where both Eduardo and Rubens at one point in this season have been on the podium this year. Which is pretty cool. And yeah, just managed to say hi to Rubens and Eduardo. And it was the briefest of moments, like 60-second catch up. And they go like, oh, hi, Alex, how are you? And I was like, he remembers my name. That's a legend in my book. It's really cool when we get these personalities. We'll get on to that in just a second. But there's one person I want to talk about, and it is Speed Concepts Racing's Austin Garrison has just become their leading man, and he's looking forward to the challenge ahead for 24, isn't he?
Man, that is you want to talk about red-blooded, damn near redneck American Florida man. That is Austin Garrison to a T. He's got his boat, loves to go out and go fishing, loves to go to mud rallies. If you are a big fan of just a good old boy, that's Austin Garrison, and that's a lot of that Speed Concepts Racing tent. Those guys are hard workers, super smart group. I mean, you're talking about the same family, right? Alex Speed was the same, was right there with Gary Carlton, as the two of them led the way and dominated in shifter categories in the 2000s, early 2010s. When we talked about Gary earlier, his dad, Mike, that's him and Alex Speed's kind of collaborative team. Racers to a core, super smart guys, Mike, and, they're also working on their own, not strictly in-house engine program, but they have the Speed Lab racing engines. So they do their own engines. as well. And then when it comes to that family, right? I mean, they had Alex's brother is Scott Speed, so it's a good racing lineage family to be a part of with a lot of big brains underneath that tent. And
Mm-hmm.
they've been really happy with what they were able to do with Austin last year, and raced him a whole lot more. And unlike a lot of the other teams we've talked about, TKG, Factory Kart Republic, Praga Karts US, I'd imagine some kind of help from Praga Factory. PSL Karting gets a lot of help from Burrell
Mm-hmm.
Art Factory. And also covers two countries, not just one, because they do Canada and the U.S., so their budget's a little bit easier to pay and run drivers. And then RPG is just such a powerhouse of an operation that they're able to do it. But Speed Concepts is not,
Mm.
it's a Red Speed dealer team.
Yeah.
It isn't a factory backed effort. A lot of talent, a lot of expertise, a lot of hard work and passion under the tent. But that's a lot of the holdup with Austin Garrison. It's not that they don't want to race him; they absolutely do, but they're doing it 100% out of their own checkbook, and that's why you saw him in 2022 3 or 4 times. You saw him in 2023 2/3 of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this year again, with some more championship prize money in place, that's a team that is a prime example of they get some value out of running him and having him as a brand, having him as a driver coach for the senior and junior drivers they have under the tent. But they're going to benefit a lot from some of the new formats of him running at the end of the day, but they don't need to hire a mechanic for him because the mechanic from earlier in the day can float to him on the split day schedule. Austin's a great driver coach. They can have him coach everybody and be fully focused on coaching from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then running a pro class to have prize money in the mix. That's a huge help for those guys too. So that's the type of reason why for me it was so important that when we could figure out a way to get deserving drivers like himself in the seat, how does that work? What's
Mm-hmm.
the equation got to look like? And I'm really really happy to say that the teams, as well as the series, that are willing to make this massive experiment and test for the year, and I mean change the whole way we do races over here for Stars and for SCUSA, and make a big investment in their programs by trying to secure prize money and say we'll get the sponsorship later. We're going to commit to pay this,
Mm-hmm.
hell or high water. That is a big reason why we're going to get to see Austin Garrison full time this year, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, that really concludes a very, very lengthy chat on
Very
the.
busy, silly season. A lot to
Oh
talk about.
man! You know what? It's like Formula One, only it's stateside karting instead. But I actually have a very, very important question. Now, you've raced. As you said, you begged and pleaded with mum and dad to get you a kart, and you jumped in. Were you predominantly more akin to IAMI as opposed to Rotax when you were driving? Because obviously now that you guys are covering the US Trophy final later on in Newcastle. You've also got the Winter Trophy coming up in Orlando at the karting centre there. Were you more of an X30 driver as opposed to going for a Rotax?
Yeah, because it in my era in the U.S. was at a very weak point for Rotax.
Mm-hmm.
We I started running 4-stroke classes at my local club for about a year. Moved up then to the 100cc categories, which was Yamaha KT100 engines, very similar but
Mm-hmm.
clutch driven with an external starter to the TKM class over in the UK. And then went from there into X30 or racing after that, and back to KA for a second on the debut year of it because it ended up being a little bit stronger than the X30 category, but then
Mm-hmm.
back over to X30, and that was really just logistics. Initially, when we went into 100cc, Rotax was still relatively prevalent, but it was on a decline because of the way that you know it was kind of run over here. There were a lot of very powerful motors. The parity wasn't good. And, we were privateers for a lot of my career up until the last couple of years when I got some sponsorship help from race teams to go and run with them for either a lesson fee or for free, or I was working for them, and I was paying for my ride that way. So, it was never something we thought that we could go and be competitive in owning a single engine. I never owned more than one engine of one kind at one time, which is pretty unheard of, especially now to go and compete nationally. But we were just a string bean, bare bones operation that punched way above our weight class for the level of seat time that I had of running 2 to 5 events a year, and doing it on our own. And luckily just, had a lot of goodwill and a lot of help. And what helped was the last few years when I was 16 to 19 years old, 16 to 20, I guess, I was announcing, or I was working in the industry basically full time. And so making those relationships, and people kind of basically took pity on me in some way or another. In some cases, I was coaching drivers, and so could bring some value, and that would help cover some of my bill. The other parts was me just working in general and stacking my own money up to be able to afford to race. And the rest of the coaching, development, help, equipment, you name it, was a lot of goodwill from the industry. So, yeah, I know that's a little lengthy on the answer to the question, but
No, it's completely fine. It's completely fine. That's
yeah,
the whole point of Commentator's Corner, folks. I want you to hear the inside track from the people themselves, because it's like you say. There's also been a driver whose family originates from Phoenix, Arizona, has raced at Supernats before. Austin Lee previously has raced with RPG. His dad, Rob, used to work for Adidas in Herzogenaurach in Germany. He used to hit me up with free sneakers because it wasn't about I think in some respects not taking pity, but like saying thanks for all the lovely comments. Like I get like a set of Ultra Boost 22s, which is it's the little things that, because for those wondering, we're living paycheck to paycheck, folks. It's like invoice to invoice, and sometimes you're having to wait a little bit of time for that money to come in. There are, and you understand this as well, Xander. Like sometimes if someone goes, well, look, here's a couple of box of sneakers, enjoy them, and you'll wear them. I had those Ultra Boost 22s for a year and a half. I literally wore them until the bottom of the soles fell apart. That's how much it meant to me.
I get made fun of all the time because I'll sometimes buy shoes from Walmart to wear at the track because they'll wear out in 6 months of being on pavement.
Yeah.
Like 30. I just can't bring myself. If I'm going to get something nicer, and the last 3 years of doing what we've been doing has been a mix of life savings and, like you said, paycheck to paycheck, going from initially putting money in, then to not being able to take money out and pay yourself, and then finally to be able to pay yourself, but it's not a lot, and not getting any younger. The bills only get a little bit higher. The housing market only gets worse and worse. It's awful here in the States.
Well, the thing is, like when you hear a conversation, like say over in the US about a gallon of gas, let's just put it into perspective. If I want to put a gallon of diesel into my Volvo V40, that's $12 a gallon.
Yeah. That's one thing we do have you guys beat on is gas prices. My goodness, is it terrible
by at least
over there.
50%. But the thing is that we do this business because we love it, don't we? At the end of the day,
for sure.
But the thing is, the other question attached to that is that with the road tax racing that you guys at Kart Chaser are covering, it's been pretty awesome, hasn't it? To be able to cover multiple different series, irrespective of whether it's X30, whether it's road tax, whether it could be, what was it? I think you guys did dirt track.
We did dirt racing. We're going to do more of that this year.
Max
Nationals. Yeah, we did them. We're going to have 4 races, I think, with them this year if all goes to plan. That wasn't even their biggest one by far. That was about a quarter of the size of the event that they can normally pull. That was about 300 entries. I think they normally can get up to 1,000 or 1,200. Now, 1,000 to 1,200 entries is pretty wild in the sprint world. It's a little bit different for them.
Yeah,
their trailers and pits do not take up the same space. Like, square foot per entry is a lot less. you'll have guys run 2 to 3 classes with the same go-kart by
Mm-hmm.
plopping lead on or off for a light or a heavy, or a semi-pro and a pro division that you qualify somehow for both, or pop the engine off. But yeah, we do that. Do the Rotax, do the Vortex Rock GP stuff, and Rock races. Won't be at them this year, unfortunately, but we did them last year. But yeah, and I've driven Rotaxes. One of my past lives jobs was working part time at Atlanta Motorsports Park and doing instructing for their driving schools. And our main kart that we'd eventually work to get the drivers in by the end of the day was Rotax Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
And in my last year of racing in X30 in 2019, I did 4 big races, the 3 US PKS races, ran pretty good in those, ran the SCUSA Pro Tour Summer Nats with a different operation, sucked, 100% my fault. I just drove bad, wasn't on the team or the engine or anything. I just drove terrible. But between those 4 races, I had a Rotax Junior on Tony Kart down at Homestead because I was working at the track. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd put, open the track, close the track. There'd be daylight left in January. I'd go do, 30 lap sessions and go do a couple sessions a week. So I've driven Rotaxes quite a bit and obviously worked on it, just never raced in a Rotax event. But man, yeah, the racing is good. Especially the J3 guys, Justin Stefani, Jim and John Giacomelli over here in the U.S., they are phenomenal. Known them for a while. Not as familiar with the RTX guys, Esteban Del Rio and Gonzalo, who put on the RMC Winter Trophy that we did last year and are doing again this year. But I've known the guys at J3 for a while. Super smart. Really, I think, especially with Justin, he's closer to me in age than most of the promoters I get to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a pretty forward-thinking guy. And, to have the right foresight of what that engine program is and how to do it properly, and, seeing all the promotion we've been doing, the last 45 minutes of us talking about all this excitement about pro drivers and everything, it was a big, initiative for them at the Rotax Trophy Final to make a star-studded grid and do what they had to do to attract, Diego Ramos to come and run with PSL karting. To obviously have Norberg there was a big thing as well. Running up front. The MPG guys, Race Laborante was right in the mix and got himself a ticket. Went and
Oliver
was
Warner.
decently quick.
Oliver Warner.
Yeah.
Perfect example. A Brit coming over to the States.
Yeah.
You've also got, folks, I'm now looking on the Rotax Global app on the entries for the Winter Trophy. And I recognise a few names in there, including a few Brits, Albert Friend and Tom Reed. Albert Friend, last year's Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy winner, also won the Minimax Grand Festival at Karting Genk. Henry called the International Trophy. I was at Karting Genk for that side of things. But then I look again. Once you get bitten by the bug, Rubens, Eduardo, and now Fernando Barrichello, all 3 have entered because, again, we saw about, I think, who was it? Wasn't it Noel Leon who was in the battle with Dudu Barrichello for the ticket last year? And Mr. Leon unfortunately got taken out in the final. That cost him the ticket, but then he went on to, I think, raced with Formula Regional European Championship powered by Alpine last year and did a pretty good job. But again, it's what I love about the fact that with the Barrichello family is that they are so humble. They are so lovely to get on with. But you put them in a cart, and it doesn't matter if you are the dad. Rubens will tear you off the strip if you give him an opportunity. If you put that barn door open so wide, Rubens will take that. And considering the fact of what that guy has achieved, 2-time Stock Car Pro Series champion in 2017 and 2022. A man that's raced over 300 Grand Prix, has been so close to winning an FIA Formula One world title. And he's run with some of the biggest names in the sport. And he still comes back to karting because he loves it. He's the perfect ambassador for motorsport in general. It doesn't matter whether it's all the way up to Formula One or right even to karting, especially when it comes to Rotax, and plus also the family run on Birrell ARTs anyway.
Yeah, they're such a great group, right? I mean, the way you talked about your story with Rubens, I've got, so many similar instances with him. He's such a humble, classy guy, and so nice and welcoming. And it was funny. As soon as we announced that we'd be at the RMC Winter Trophy, Dudu DM me, and he's like, "Oh, great! This is great to see." And I'm like, "Oh, you're running again?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I don't know. It looks like a lot tougher of a field this year. It sounds like a lot more heavy hitters are coming." And with how much racing we've got, and especially having the SCUSA race 2 weeks prior, the Florida Winter Tour Rock race the week before, I'm sure that entry list is going to look a whole lot stiffer. Once we get to Monday of race week, because it seems like this year, unlike last year, where it was a mostly international crowd, an 80 to 90, maybe 100 entries between the two events.
Yeah.
Being at the same track is super helpful because now for all the international people, the Brits, the Australians, the Europeans that are going to come over, the
Yeah.
South Americans, you've got a 2 week vacation in Orlando, come in Wednesday of race week, race all week, Monday, Tuesday, go to Disney World, go to Universal, then Wednesday to Sunday race again, then go home Sunday night. It's a great international schedule for this 2 week to go get a ticket,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's really convenient for all the race teams in America to go. And this year they're going to go. RPG is going to go. Speed Concepts is going to go. PSL is going to go. The list goes on. And I would imagine they're going to take a lot of their hitters in it. The Praga guys are going to race it because they're based in Orlando. So
Yeah.
that's an event that I was actually, I wouldn't say wasn't excited to do, but definitely not as excited as I am now, and realizing how strong the fields are going to be. And the fun part from a commentator side and a streamer side for Rotax Challenge events, at the most, there's only 7 classes. And in some cases, when you don't have the DD2 grids, you run with 5 to 6. That's amazing because usually with one class per age group, 80 to 100 entries is pretty full. 150 is really full, 30, 20 cart grids. The Rotax Trophy Final was one of our most fun races on the year because there was no lull classes, dull class in between. There wasn't a 3 cart category with, everyone spread apart for seconds on end. So I'm hopeful that we have all of those classes full because we're used to races where sometimes we have a grid of 8 to 10 guys, and you go from a 40 cart class to that, and it just sucks the wind out of you as a commentator, as a streamer, producer, as a viewer. I watch the chart just take a nosedive, but we have a boring class on a major event. So
yeah, all I'm going to say is like I'm looking through the amount of entries. Okay, Max Master. Okay, you look at who's in that. You've got Philip Dahl, you've got Bo Amato from the UK, Rubens Barrichello, and the man that won DD2 Masters in the Euro Trophy last year, who's about to turn 32, by the way, Nicola Pico. Rapid. I've commentated on that guy when he was in Senior Max, when he was in DD2. I called him over the line when he beat Dennis Tum on the track at PFI. Don't mention Dennis Tum to Rubens Barrichello ever again. Because if anyone has seen the documentary on Acelerados, the YouTube channel, I was there when it happened, and I knew exactly what... and even someone who, as I said, I haven't professionally raced, but I know when something's gone wrong. And I just went, crap. Excuse me, I'm trying to get over a cold at the moment. I will edit that part out. But then, you look, juniors are nearly at 30. Micro, over 15. Mini, nearly 30. Seniors, 40. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, I think, what was it? The most drivers I've commentated on my own, and Xander, you'll probably be taken slightly back by this. There's a story that goes back to June of, it was summer of 2021. Rotax Max Challenge International Trophy, Le Mans. It's race week, and I've been over there since Sunday. And I get a phone call from Henry saying that I'm unable to do the event. So he's contacted the organisers, and this is a story I tell on a regular basis. I was there for 3 social media clients. So I was doing videos, I was doing graphics, updating people about results. Henry says, "Hello, boy. Oh, sorry, you can't be there, but I've told them I've put your name forward." And I was like, when he goes, "Oh, hi, mate, how you doing?" And then he goes, "I'm not going to be there." The cogs start ticking, and I went, "Oh, shit. Here we go. He's told them, hasn't he, that I'm there?" But credit where credit was due, gave me a shout out on the Kartmaster stream on the Sunday morning. So Henry and I have got total mutual respect for each other. We know each other's work ethic. And when you get us two in the commentary box, it's like the 2 Ronnies of karting commentary. Like literally, we'll try and throw something in there that will make the other laugh. And I did actually get Henry in 2019. And funnily enough, it was to do with Oliver Bearman. And we were doing a play on Smokey and the Bandit. And instead of Bandit 19, I said Bearman 19, Bearman 19, and you can hear Henry muffling his microphone, but you can still hear the laugh. So I got him on that one. I did 47 races, unassisted, by no colour commentator. I did every single bit of the pageantry. So we had the draw, we had all the nations, forgot the Netherlands, got told off by 3 of the dads who I knew personally, and so I went, oh, bugger. But, like, literally, you're dealing with 3 social media clients, plus your lastminute.com. I knew 85% of the people in the paddock. I then did the prize ceremony at the end, all on my own. And then I get invited to dinner, and the first thing I say, I'd love to, but I really need to go to bed now. So I drove back to where I was staying, right by the Gare du Nord in Le Mans, ordered 2 big pizzas, 2 beers, and literally within an hour of consuming them, I had fallen asleep. So yeah, 47 races plus half of qualifying. And I think we had north of 270, 280 drivers that week. So we had all the mainstay classes. Which was crazy. It was the busiest week, but I think, as you well know, Xander, when you're that busy and you don't know where the time's gone, you feel tired, wired, you feel like you're dead on your feet, but you feel that you've really, really accomplished something on that as well. But really, just sort of final question from me. How are things shaping up for Kart Racer for 2024? Of course, you've done you've done the Happy Hour podcast. You've got the Xander Clements podcast, which is now 11 episodes deep. What teasers, without giving too much away, because I want people to listen to your podcast, what little teasers are there that you can sprinkle right now?
That's a good one. Well, we've been still tinkering with our onboard camera, and I think we've got a pretty good plan to bring onboards pretty heavily into effect in 2024. So won't be at the first month of racing, I don't think, but should be ready if nothing else by March. So that's exciting. I think we'll have it on a lot of drivers through the year. A cool part of the podcast is, mine. Happy Hour, what we did is we kind of split it all up. Mine is one of 3 that will be new. The other 2 is going to be introducing guys that have been on Kart Chaser before, that have done pit reporting, commentary, camera guys, and are still going to be a part of it. And I'm going to hand them their own shows, which allows me a little more flexibility. And kind of tease it on my podcast as well a little bit, that we're working on having me do some races this year, but realistically doing it in a way that is going to line up a scholarship car seat for a young driver for every year for years to come. As soon as I'm done, I want to model it and show them everything they should do, and that they need to do, and kids that prove they're worthy. And then when they get in the seat, they're still going to have to do everything that I did. Because if I'm running a whole business and working every single day of the year almost, going to all these races, and I'm able to produce all of this content and keep all of our sponsors happy, there's no question that you can't either. So that's a lot of new stuff for this year. The rest of it is just it's trying to work on the fan and the flames. I'm so excited to get to March and to have the first of our new pro show weekends and to see that in action. We haven't had a hot pit at our national events in a long, long time. We have somewhat of one at the Challenge of the Americas, but that series hasn't been massive the last few years. I've never been there in person, but this will be on a whole new level with a 30-minute practice. It'll the way that this format goes, Alex, is it's 2 30-minute practices on Friday with about an hour gap in between to alternate X30, and then shifter will do their first round, X30 shifter first round. That's the only track time these guys will be getting before qualifying. There may or may not be an optional test day on Thursday, which will have the same format, but at the most, again, 2 30-minute sessions so they can still work the entire morning. It's really more structured like a car race. Get on track a couple times. You'll have time for a major change in between, but during the session, it'll be very minor. Then qualifying, probably the thing I'm most excited about with this new format is we're going to do a Q1 and a Q2, with Q1 having groups split in half, even and odd results from final practice. Top 6 transfer to Q2 for the top 12 to set the first starting grids, then a heat race, and then Sunday. It's cool, and I am excited for it, but I think the qualifying thing is the biggest new one. Sunday, we're cutting out our warm-up session for these pro guys. They're going to go straight to the final, and similar to Supernats, the karts will stage on the track. They'll be spy their karts for the first 15, 20 minutes for TV, do the stream. They're all mandated to stay around for post-race interviews for the next 5 to 10, 15 minutes. Then the other class rolls, and we're going to lengthen their main event in the idea that if we put some more tire degradation into the game, it should clean up the racing a little bit, because I think guys will naturally drive a little bit easier at the start of the race, knowing that they got to take care of their equipment to make it to the end. And also, they're going to drive each other cleaner, because if I knock you off the racetrack in a 5-lap, 8-lap heat, you probably aren't getting back to me. But if I knock you off on lap 1 of lap 30, I didn't need to do that in the first place, but you probably could get back to me if you're at least as fast as me, and I get in some battles, right? So
exactly.
I'm not going to do it, So having a longer main, I think, is exciting. Seeing how that format goes has me excited. And we're just in the first wave of silly season, right? There are so many last-second rides that come together. I'm super hopeful we get our boy Kremers back for the Pro Tour. And have as many superstar names as we do. But this new structure, the prize stuff, the USPKS series is going to be mega as well. The Stars series is going to be super cool. But to see this new format that has just been a big part of our mission, we're so much more and want to be so much more than just a media company in the space. We want to really help craft and mold and fan the flames of growth for the sport here. And I think one of our biggest projects coming to life is having a huge hand in getting this new alternate race format to come to life with 2 of the big 3 major series. And optimistically, if it goes well, I could see the USPKS maybe entertaining the idea for 2025, and we have all 3 of them on it. A better model for race teams to make it less expensive for them and more valuable to have sponsored drivers, which means more opportunities for our younger drivers to graduate into, whether or not they have car racing potential in terms of budget. They could do the car racing and karting on the side, like Dalton is this year, and potentially Kiko, or they could be a Ryan Norberg and find a way to make a living in their 20s racing go-karts. And so making those opportunities, that's the heart and soul of why we founded Kart Chaser, is to try and make it where the sport's bigger for everyone, so there's more healthy clubs. And for a guy like myself that had the budget to be a club racer and would have been happy racing club once a month if my club didn't die off in turnout, that's a big, one half of it. And we're going to do more grassroots projects like that in the future. This year is the start of a little bit of one with the scholarship car and some other things. But the other half is I turned 15 and realized I was never going to be a professional race car driver because I couldn't even be a professional, or full-time, I should say, go-kart driver, to now making opportunities where guys like Austin Garrison that are super talented, guys like Marin Kremers, guys like Ryan Norberg, Alessandro D'Attulio that deserve to get paid because they're so good at what they do and put on an amazing show. We've got amazing racing that can attract spectators, and outside sponsors and partners that we're working on this year. To see a step in that direction with this format, with the prize structure these series are putting forward, and the fact that it's getting global attention is something I'm super excited about. So that's already mostly known, and it's not as much of a teaser. The onboard, I guess, a little bit is, and some of the other stuff. But what excites me the most is seeing our industry. It feels like here in America, there's always competition. There always will be, but more cohesive as a unit, towing in one direction for growth and making strides at that, not just talk. We can talk all day, and you and I are paid to talk, right?
True.
But to take it and make some proper actions and be really actually making an impact and getting the ball rolling. That's hard to do. To have that done this year and to see where it's going to go just gets me excited for the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Xander, thank you so much for your time, buddy. It's been a real pleasure having you as our 40th official guest here on Commentators Corner.
Thank you, man. Hey, and get well.
I will do. I have been struggling with a cold and a cough, ladies and gentlemen, but that's it for episode 40. Don't forget, down in the description below, whether you are listening, whether it be on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or on Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport stations, you'll be able to see all the respective links for Kart Chaser's YouTube channel, their social media presence. Also, I'm going to put a link to Xander's Instagram, so if you want to give this man a follow, feel free to do so. Stay tuned for episode 41. More great guests, more great insights within this industry are coming soon right here to Commentators Corner. It's 2024, but we've only just gotten started. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you next time.